please.
Welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine. If you enjoy this programming, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Join Truth and Rhythm's membership program through Patreon. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkandstuff.net. At that site, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk. Shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funk and Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm. I'm delighted to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership guitarist Mike Scott, best known for his extensive work with Prince and the New Power Generation. Following 12 years of playing with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, he recorded and toured with Prince and the MPG from 1996 to 2001, and his performances with the group continued periodically until 2012. His Prince studio work includes the Emancipation, Exodus, New Power Soul, Crystal Ball, and Rave into the Joy Fantastic projects. In addition, he's worked with stars like Janet Jackson, Lionel Richie, Chaka Khan, Gladys Knight, Karyn White, Alexandra O'Neill, Luther Vandross, Mary J. Blige, Beyonce, TLC, Patti LaBelle, Mariah Carey, Justin Timberlake, Maroon 5, Alicia Keys, and Rhianna. Since Prince's passing in 2016, he has also performed with the reunited MPG. Mike, man, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm good, Scott. Good to finally get to do this with you. We've been trying to pull this together for a minute here.
Yeah. You know, I was not going to let you go, man. I got to track you down, brother.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did a good job.
And I tracked you down you're in the Georgia, near Atlanta, or whereabouts?
Yeah, we're in Douglasville, Georgia. It's about 40 minutes from Atlanta on a good day of traffic. But yeah, it's outside of Atlanta, nice little community, kind of rural, a lot of trees. Me and my wife own 8 acres of property, and it's just we love not having the neighbors on top of us, So I enjoy Douglasville. It's a nice little city.
Yeah. Well, I just want to let the viewers and listeners know, just a little disclaimer, Mike's dealing with a little bit of a cold, so if his voice cracks or whatever, just bear with that. And I appreciate you doing this under those circumstances.
Hey, man, I appreciate you bearing with me, bro, because I'm stuffed up here.
Well, we'll try to blow it out with some good talk about good times, and, the funk gets you through, right? So
That's right.
So, Mike, you grew up in D.C., is my understanding. Can you tell us how you gravitated toward music?
Well, that's an interesting story, Scott. I had my sister and I grew up in D.C. with our parents, of course, and I had a babysitter back when we were young kids. Sorry, my nose was running. I had a babysitter, and her boyfriend played guitar in a local band. So when the girl would babysit us, her boyfriend would interact with me and my sister as well. And one day, his band played in a neighborhood park in my neighborhood. And when I saw him in front of me doing this amazing thing, it just blew my mind. And thank God he was playing the guitar and not the oboe or flute or something, because I probably would be a flute player. But he was playing the lead guitar. And since I knew him, I was able to connect. And I think I was about 10 then. So I came home and told my dad I had to have a guitar. and my dad went and got me a guitar, my first guitar, and I started at it. Of course, he gave me the speech about how kids are. They'll pick up something today and it's sitting in the corner a week from now. So he gave me the speech all the way home, made me cry. But I really wanted to play guitar, so I started playing, just teaching myself a little bit, and I ran to that guy's house, the babysitter. He lived near me up the street, and I ran to his house to show him that I had this new guitar. Like, wow, man, I got a guitar just like you. And I played Superstition or something on one string. No, I played Lean on Me on one string. That was just going up and down the neck, and he completely crushed my dreams. he said, man, go home and practice. You got to learn how to play that. You got to play all six strings. I ran out of his house crying. But then I came back maybe a year later and joined the same band that he was in when I was 12 or 13. I started playing with that band that my babysitter's guitar player used to play. His name, we used to call him Tree, but he was the inspiration to get me started. And my father sent me out for some guitar lessons as a neighborhood guitar teacher in my neighborhood. I took a few lessons, and then I just started teaching myself from there. And then I was able to go to Duke Ellington School of the Performing Arts. By the time I turned, 16, I went to Ellington from the 10th grade to the 12th grade. And that was also very instrumental in my learning and growing. But when I first started, when I was a kid, to be able to play with those guys, with my babysitter's boyfriend, his name was Carlos Williams, and I played in his band, and they were all grown-ups. And I learned a lot from them. And then I went on to join some other bands in my neighborhood as a teenager.
So when you came up, was that after Go-Go's heyday? Because, I think of DC, that's one of the things that comes to mind.
No, it was actually during. Because I remember my sister and I going to see Chuck Brown at Calorama Skating Rink back in the 70s, and I had to be about 14 years old. And Chuck was running things back then. But then when I got out of high school, I jumped in the go-go music scene. I used to play with Lil Benny and the Masters and a band called Reds and the Boys. They were all very popular. There was Experience Unlimited. There was Rare Essence, Chuck Brown, and they were all. You could go any night of the week and hear go-go from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning. Chuck would play on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, and he started playing about 6. And then when he finished his set, he'd go play somewhere else. And then he finished that set, he'd go play somewhere else. And when he finished that set, he'd play somewhere else. So you could go anywhere and hear great go-go music throughout the day in DC. So DC, yes, go-go music was running things during that Chuck Brown period, all through the late 70s, 80s, all through the 80s. Chuck was the king of go-go.
Yeah. So if you played in some of those groups, I would think that would really get you down with the groove and also the stamina and,
Yeah, it was actually, I have to, you're absolutely right, because part of the thing that gave me success with Prince was the go-go element that I already had been raised on, mixed with the knowledge he gave me with the Minneapolis influenced music. So I was able to somehow combine the two to come up with something of my own that was unique and obviously not available in Minneapolis, which opened up a lot of doors for me at that time. So the go-go upbringing and just the DC music scene allowed me to go to Minneapolis and mix it up to get Prince what he wanted as a second guitarist. I was able to give him the funk that he wanted.
Yeah.
And I have to really base it on the blending of the styles that I was raised on. Excuse me.
Who were a couple of players that you really idolized early on?
Um, George Benson was a huge influence on me. There was a lot of great music out back then in the 70s. Earth, Wind and Fire, Ohio Players, Sugarfoot was a very huge influence. Tony Maiden, guitarist with Rufus and Chaka Khan, uh, a huge influence. Ernie Isley was a huge influence. So where I was growing up, we listened to a lot of what were they calling it back? Soul music back then. Skin Tight by Ohio Players. We were listening to Bar Caves, Holy Ghost, all that kind of stuff. So Prince's style of music, the Minneapolis style of music wasn't popular in DC area until the Purple Rain, not only the album, but the movie came out. The movie is what won Washingtonians over by storm because we still weren't, Prince wasn't he just wasn't in our daily playlist. Like Tell Me Something Good by Shaka Khan or Skin Tight by Ohio Players or Shining Star by Earth, Wind and Fire. All great songs with great guitar parts. And that's the kind of stuff that influenced me in my upbringing. And like I said, George Benson was a very huge influence. And my father used to listen to this jazz guitarist. Damn it, his name slips my mind right now.
Wes Montgomery.
Kenny Burrell was also my father listened to a lot of Kenny Burrell, and so I had a nice little smorgasbord of music. But going to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, those people there, the students there, introduced me to styles of music that I was not aware of growing up in my neighborhood. My older sister used to listen to the soul music. But Ellington, those kids were listening to AC/DC and Queen and Kiss and Journey and that kind of stuff. So my mind got blown when I got to Ellington in 78, 77, 78, 79, because I wasn't familiar with all this music. And then the musicians that went to Ellington, they were listening to even broader stuff like jazz, like Chick Corea and the Electric Band or Chick Corea and
Return to Forever.
Return to Forever. Oh my God. When I heard that stuff, I was like, what the hell? What planet is this music from? Because I've been listening to Sugarfoot play with Ohio Players. I didn't know there was stuff like this that existed. So Ellington opened up my mind to a lot of more diverse music than I was accustomed to in my upbringing, in my neighborhood in Washington, D.C. Excuse me. So, yeah, I listened to a lot of different stuff in the 70s and 80s, and it helped influence my playing.
One of my favorite bands, I think, out of DC was the Blackbirds.
Oh yeah. Doing it in the park, Rock Creek Park. Oh yeah, Rock Creek Park. I think that was I think that was the Blackbirds.
It was, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
From Howard University, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what were some, notable experiences you had musically before meeting Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis?
Well, I was playing with a lot of bands in Washington, D.C. area at the time that I moved to Minneapolis. I moved to Minneapolis in 92, and I was playing with a band called Finesse. I used to play with Juicy. I don't know if you remember Juicy. They had out, their big hit was I'm Sugar Free. Do, 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 do. We did Soul Train. We did all that. They had a number one top 20 hit back in the 80s. I toured with them for a while, but I came back to DC with Finesse and just doing the local scene. But there was this group called Radiant. They left DC to go do the Marriott circuit around the country, and our first Marriott gig was in Minneapolis. So we got there, Mint Condition was there, Jam and Lewis was there, Prince was there, Sounds of Blackness were there. It was just a smorgasbord of all these amazing people that that influenced my music career. So the band ended up breaking up. The Marriott thing fell through, and they all went back to DC. And I said, "Man, I am not going back to DC. I'm staying here in Minneapolis." So it was the best. Thank God, it was the best decision I ever made in my career, because from then on, there's a guitarist in Minneapolis named David Berry. He played guitar with Janet Jackson, and he was Jam and Lewis's house session guy. He went out on tour with Janet, and every gig he had in Minneapolis, I think I probably got every gig he had. And that led me up to, I started playing with the Steels. I know you're Prince fans familiar with the Steels. I started playing with the Sounds of Blackness. I used to play with a reggae group, a very famous reggae group called Ipso Facto. All these groups are in Minneapolis. So once I got with Sounds of Blackness, that led me to, their record label was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis's Flight Time Records. Also, Mint Condition was on Flight Time Records, also, and Nesby. And so once I started playing with the Sounds of Blackness, that led me to open some doors with Jimmy Jam and Lewis, because they needed a guitarist to do some sessions. And Sounds were rehearsing at Flight Time. So that allowed me to start playing with Jam Lewis had, every day I was in there, there'd be Janet, Lionel, I could sit here and name Destiny's Child. It was just, in every studio there was somebody recording every day. So that was all a blessing, and it was a wonderful time for me to come to Minneapolis in 1992, because it opened up a lot of doors. And there was this very popular group that Dave Barry used to play with in Minneapolis called the Stud Brothers. And they would have a line around the block. So when Dave left with Janet, that was the first big gig in Minneapolis I got with the Stud Brothers. And it led to so many other things happening. Just, I would play with whoever was paying, I was playing. That was my motto. If they're paying, I'm playing.
That's a good one. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Prince had well, he didn't have a band. In Minneapolis, people that go to Minneapolis know Bunkers nightclub, and Dr. Marbles Combo used to play there on Sundays and Mondays. And it had a lot of Prince's band members. The Hornheads were in there. Michael Bland, Sonny T was in the band. I think Tommy was in the band at some point. But they were a great club band that played on Sundays and Mondays at Bunkers. And I remember the first week I was in Minneapolis, the band I was there with took us to see them play. And they were so funky, because it was Prince's band, basically. I was like, oh my God, they're so funky. And I said, I want to sit in. And one of the guys I was with was like, man, they don't let nobody sit in. They don't let anybody. And I went over to Michael Bland. I said, hey, brother, it's a pleasure to meet you. I want to sit in. And Michael Bland was like, hey, if you that confident, come on up. And I went up and played like 3 or 4 songs with them, and it was amazing, because it was Prince's band, basically, and they were like the top of the food the top of the food chain in Minneapolis. Dr. Marbles Combo was the baddest band in Minneapolis at the time, because it was Prince's band. So a lot of doors opened up from '92 to the time I left Minneapolis, just all the way up to Prince, who was the top. He was the very top of the food chain. So by the grace of God, I was able to play with damn near every band in Minneapolis. I played with everybody. The Sounds of Blackness, Jam and Lewis. I played with Mint a little bit. Me and Stokely did a lot of things together in other bands. Just every band that was in Minnesota, I tried to play with until I got to Prince. And it, like I said, it was by the grace of God.
Yeah.
I almost didn't get the gig, though, because Kirk Johnson called me for the gig with Prince. He called me on a Wednesday, said, they might come out, come on out jam with Prince and the band tonight. And I was like, man, I got a gig. He called me around 6, and I was like, I can't. I got a gig tonight, And he said, oh, man. I said, what about tomorrow? He said, man, this is not a tomorrow thing. This is a right now. This is a today opportunity. And I said, oh man, I can't. I got a gig. So I'm loading my stuff into my car. I'm thinking like, wait. I'm about to pass up a chance to play with Prince to do a $75 gig here. And once I smacked myself back to reality, I called the guy and told him I couldn't make it. He was pissed, of course, because it's too late to get a sub. I went on out and jammed with Prince and them on a Wednesday, and Cat Dyson, Rhonda, Kirk Johnson on drums, and it was funky. It was fun. We jammed Wednesday. He asked me to come back to rehearsal Thursday, and I believe Friday, and then on Saturday we were on a plane headed to New York. And he had never said to me once that you're in the band. He never said you're in the band. But we went to go do Good Morning America or something. And I didn't have clothes or anything. I just had my regular street clothes. They all dressed up. We're going to go on. It was the episode where Prince was dressed as Brian Gumble. I know you remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
And it was my first gig with them. And I didn't have on anything. And it was a coat. We would get ready to walk on stage. There's a coat hanging there. And somebody had a 3/4 length long trench coat. He had me put that on. And he sent the wardrobe lady Bonnie up to get a hat. And I put a hat on, one of his hats. And he said, you look like a Baptist church minister. And he said, Reverend. You're like a Baptist church reverend. And that's why Reverend Scott was born that day. So that's how I got that title of Reverend Scott.
Well, that takes care of that question.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So you came after, was it Levi or Miko, or who'd you come after guitar?
Well, Miko was in one of the versions of Revolution. NPG, in my opinion, the baddest band Prince ever had, consisted of Levi Caesar on guitar, Sonny T on bass, Michael Bland, Tommy Barbarella, Mr. Hayes, and the Hornheads, and Kirk Johnson and Damon, and Tony. To me, that was the baddest version, and I think that was the original version of the NPG when they first were created, because the Revolution was before them. So Levi was playing guitar. Then when Prince started the next version of NPG, it was Cat Dyson, Rhonda Smith, and Kirk Johnson on drums. And that's when I came in. And Mr. Hayes was on keys. And I came in then in 96. So I would say we were the second version of the NPG.
And how did Prince communicate to you what he really wanted out of guitar?
Well, that first jam, he just let me do what I wanted. They were funking, and I was just adding what I did what I do, and he was just loving it. He was loving everything that I was playing. And I was just really happy about that. And so a lot of times he would show me and Cat what he wanted us to play. He would give us an opportunity to play something funky or play what he needed to hear as if he was playing guitar. So that was me and Cat Dyson, and I was our pretty much sole function. If Prince put his guitar down, he still wanted to be just as funky as if he was playing. So he would dictate, like I said, you can either come up with something funky or he would tell you to play something funky. And he was very, a lot of times I would play the right things. Sometimes he would want a specific thing. So it worked out. We had a good understanding.
And what was the first time you were in the studio with him, Mike?
Well, that's an interesting question, because a lot of times you would be in the studio and not realize you were in the studio. Like he would just say, Mike, play this part. And I'd play that part. And next thing I know, it's on a record. And I didn't even know that we were recording a record. It would just happen. But the first time Prince and I both sat down together and worked out a song, was the greatest romance ever been told. Um, for some reason, he said he couldn't come up with anything on that, or he had to try to come up with anything. He wanted to see what I could come up with. So I laid down a few parts through the whole song, and then he came in the room with myself and Hans, and we just, he's like, I like that, or do something else right here, and I do something else, and I like that. Then we get to the next session, he'd be like, what you got there? And I do something, and he would either keep it or say do something else. So the greatest romance is a special song for me because Prince and I both, we kind of worked that guitar out. It's a lot of guitar in that song, and we worked that out together. I did the playing, and he either liked the ideas or he didn't, or he asked me to do something different. But we worked that song out together. He was sitting in the booth and he was just listening to what I brought to the table, and we chopped it up till we came up with that beautiful guitar on that song.
Yeah, that's a great track. I think it should have been a bigger hit than it was even, but
Yeah, it should have been. It was a big hit in some places, not every place. I remember going to see a band play in DC, and they actually covered that song, and it was pretty cool to hear them cover that song. But yeah, it was a great song. It didn't get the acclaim that it should and that it deserved.
yeah, Arista didn't quite come through like had been hoped on that project, unfortunately. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, so when you came in '96, I mean, that was a pivotal year for Prince because it was his first year free of Warner Brothers and his big
Emancipation.
Emancipation
Yes.
project and the
Yeah.
Jam of the Year tour and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that must have been I mean, I know he had some personal things going on around that time too, but aside from that, creatively and musically, must have been a joyous time for Prince, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he was celebrating his freedom from Warner Brothers, and the Emancipation album. In my opinion, that was a great record. And it allowed him to express a lot of. He seemed like he was expressing a lot of emotion and feeling that he couldn't while he was still under that Warner Brother contract. But yeah, that was a great time. It was a really great time. The Emancipation uh, album release. I came right at that time. I didn't get to record on that album, but I did get to play most of the songs from that album.
You went out on the Jam of the Year tour, some
Yes,
of it or all of it, or
yes, yeah. Did the Jam of the Year. It was it was just a whirlwind because my life went from like cruising speed like 25 in the city to like 75 on the highway just in a flash. So it was I was hanging on pretty much by the skin of my nails, and it was I mean it was so fast when after we left Minneapolis that first week. I got in the band on a Wednesday. By Monday, we were playing in my hometown in DC, which was great for me. A great moment in life and time. But after we did that gig, I was on Prince's tour bus, and I said, sir, we never he never even said you're in the band. He never said to me once, welcome to the band. They just told me to pack a bag and get a plane on Saturday when we were going to New York. And we had never talked business. So when I finally got to tell him, I said, we never discussed salary or anything. And he told his bodyguard, I said, write Mike a check. The guy gave me the check. I'm looking at the check. I looked at Prince. I said, am I supposed to pay the whole band out of this? Because I had never made that much money, and I thought I really was supposed to pay Kirk and Morris and Ron and Cat. He laughed. He thought that was so funny. He said, Mike just asked me, is he supposed to pay the rest of the band? Because he never officially said you're in the band. It just kind of just happened. And Jam of the Year just was on top of me. And I really never got to catch my breath. It was like taking off in a rocket ship and you're trying to get your seatbelt on while the ship is blasting off from Earth. You should have already been in your seat with your seatbelt on. I'm still trying to put mine on. It was that fast.
So, some of those dates had Santana on them, as I recall.
Santana set in a couple of times. Yes, Santana. He said it a couple of times. I think we had a lot of guests during my time with Prince. George Benson sat in with us once. Um, Larry Graham was just amazing. I so idolized Larry Graham and Graham Central Station. So when he got in the band, I couldn't believe I was sharing the stage. I think I was more excited to be on stage with Graham than I was a Prince. But Chaka was there for a while. Lenny was there for a while. That Rave to the Joy, fantastic. You know that one. So yeah, Santana sat in a couple of times, but the couple of times that he did, I think he had me sit it out. Because if Prince and Santana were playing, he felt there wasn't any need for me to be on stage also. So I sat out when Santana sat in.
So you're in this crazy whirlwind, nuts situation. Was there some point like where you felt like you got a little bit of more, relaxed time with Prince, where you got a better sense of him?
Well, yeah, yes, there definitely was a point. Throughout the time I was with Prince, he probably fired me at least 3 times, maybe 4, for different reasons. The first time I was let go from NPG was totally my fault. I made a mistake. But the other times were situations beyond my control. Like my mom was dying of cancer and they were about to go out on tour and I couldn't make rehearsals. So he had to let me go. But the first time he let me go, it was a rude awakening that I needed to tighten up my shoes, my strings and buckle down and just focus more on the music instead of riding the this star high I was on, just hanging out with this superstar. So once I got my mess together, I was able to focus. And so yes, me and him came to a better understanding after I explained to him that I was serious and I was only here for the music. I was here only for the music and not for all the other bullshit. So once him and I got past that, it became real easy for him and I to work together. Like he would, if he asked me to play something, he'd say, "Mike, try this," and he would play it, and then he'd say, "Play it back for me." And I said, "No, just count the band in," and I would go ahead and just hit it. And I think he was always impressed that I could play stuff just with him telling me one time to play something. I would never have to demo it for him. I'd just play it. But we got to where we had an understanding was he would just let me do he knew I would do what he wanted me to do. Once I got to understand that Prince wanted to hear, if he put his guitar down, he wanted it to stay just as funky as if he was still playing. So I tried to come to an understanding of the way he approached his rhythm guitar, and I would just keep it funky, keep it simple, and we had a good understanding of that. We had a good understanding.
That's pretty intense. That's pretty intense.
If he put his guitar down, it was gonna still stay funky. Right. And that was my job.
Do you remember a couple of shows that really just stand out to you as being especially unforgettable?
No, nope, I don't. They were all amazing, and I could never say one was more amazing than another because each night, Chris was amazing. Each night, we were. I can't speak for the whole band, but I think I can say we were all amazed as amazed at what he would do live as the audience was, because he was amazing every night. He was always on 100 every night. There was never a 90% night or 95% night. Prince, you would get 100% from Prince every night. And I can honestly say I have no favorite show because they were all amazing. Even the after party shows, they were just incredible.
Did he pull you into the studio at all, like when you're on the road sometimes, just to lay down tracks?
No, I can't ever remember. I can't say I ever remember us recording outside of Paisley Park because, yeah, I don't ever remember recording with him anywhere else except Paisley. And if he did that, he never did that with me. I mean, because he's got this amazing facility, he's got Paisley Park. So I can't see him going anywhere else where he would be comfortable. Who's more comfortable? One place is more comfortable than your home.
Well, but
So
I just think sometimes he might be on the road and inspiration hits him, kind of thing.
yeah, to my recollection, if inspiration ever hit him, we would just go back to Paisley. We would fly back to Minneapolis and go record. I really don't remember. Like I said, if it did happen, it didn't involve me. Because Prince used to say to me on several occasions, he'd always say, yeah, Mike Scott, I play guitar. I play guitar. And it translated to me as if I don't need you now. You're here, but I don't need you. So,
Yeah. What was it like?
So the point I'm making that if he did go in the studio somewhere else, he wouldn't need me to go in and play. He would do all the guitar playing.
Yeah. I got you. Do you remember the Exodus project?
Exodus, yes, that was one of my favorite CDs NPG ever did. And Sonny T is all over that thing, man.
It's a serious funky record.
That's
I mean,
a serious funky. We never in the versions of NPG I did with him. We never played any of those songs, but I loved that album, and I was actually able to play a lot of those songs with NPG and Sonny after Prince died. Just as recent as last year, we did a bunch of stuff off the Exodus album. Yeah.
I'd love to hear that stuff live.
Oh yeah, that's some funky mess there, boy. Yeah, Sonny T was beating up all that stuff, and with Prince's guidance, of course. But to me, that was the best version of NPG that Prince ever had, and that's my opinion. That version of NPG. I know you heard the joke. Somebody in Revolution said, I don't remember who, and I hope they don't mind me quoting it. Somebody said, if you NPG are like cockroaches. If you kill one, 3 more show up. I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, did you know at the time that those tracks were going to be for an MPG project, or was it just part of all the recording that was going on?
What, Exodus?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't in the band when they did any of the Exodus stuff.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah, that was if I'm not mistaken, name a couple of tracks off the Exodus album.
Return of the Bump Squad, The Exodus Has Begun.
Yeah. That was the Sonny T, Morris, Tommy, Levi.
Okay, that was earlier, before you were there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. That was just a year before you were there. Yeah. Okay.
Still a great album, though.
New Power Soul, were you involved in that one?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Marvin King was in the band then. See, at that time, the thing that was going on, Scott, we would go in. If Prince had an idea, it may just be a drum beat, and he would have me play, like, for instance, on 18 and Over, he had me do a guitar part. And next thing I knew, it was on a recording. I hadn't heard it with vocals, horns, or anything. And I didn't even know, you never knew what, you couldn't say, Prince, what albums is going on? He would tell you. So when we were going, when he would have me come to the studio and record, I didn't I had no clue what was going on. I wouldn't know until the album came out. I'd be like, oh, that's that song we did that day. I didn't know what record, what album it was going to be on, even the song title. He would just tell you to come in and do something. Like we get done with rehearsal, he'd say, Mike, and he'd just stay behind and come to Studio A. Go in Studio A, they'd hook you up, he'd roll a track, and you play something, and then you're dismissed. Don't ask no questions.
So when it would come out, you'd be as surprised as the fans were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Were you there for that recording that happened where it was I forgot what it was called, New Power Soul, but it was when those 3 records came out and they did that video that had Graham in it and Chaka in it and Prince, and it was shot at Paisley probably.
Wait a minute, it wasn't that Rave concert, right? Because Chaka wasn't on that Rave.
No, it was like a year before that.
Wait, you said it was 3?
It was like to mark those 3 records coming out, the New Power Soul, the Chaka Khan, the Larry Graham.
Okay, I played on Chaka's.
I think Dougie Fresh made an appearance too.
Yeah, I was there. I was there during that time, and I actually played. I know I played on something with Chaka on her record. But like I said, Scott, I'm not kidding you. If we were there today, and you were in the band, he would tell us, Scott, come in the studio, and they'd start a track, and he'd say, play something on this. You'd play something, and then he'd be, okay, thank you, and then you leave. You don't even hang around. If you went to Studio A and hung out, he'd probably be like, oh, why are you still here? Because and he wouldn't tell you. If you said, what was that for? You would get no answers. What album is that going on? Is that something, who's going to sing that? You would get nothing. So I didn't ask questions. I just did what I was told, and I was where I was supposed to be. So the point I'm making is when that record you're speaking of came out, I probably played on 2 or 3 of those songs. I just didn't realize that was going to be the end result of it.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.